Hey there, so today we have another review. It's been a while. Time to review M-43. So, I guess they send a ton of this stuff down. They make a ton. I was actually curious about their production. Are they contracting? Let's see. They're bringing out of Williamston. Is that where I visited? Because I feel like I was in Lansing. I don't know. Or whatever. So I don't know. You guys don't know the world, but I actually, unfortunately, picked this one up strangely. So what you see here, I mean, you can't see it, but that says 0921, but then their canning isn't quite perfect, and it says 06 0921. So this is a 4-month-old can, unfortunately, on the warm shelf. Not very excited about that, but hey, they sent a ton of it down here. It still sits on the shelf, and hope they stand by their product 4 months in. I personally wouldn't. And again, I really should do another kind of hop experiment with you guys. That High Live one was very enlightening. The one where I did like hot outside, room temperature in the fridge, and those beers were vastly different. So you should probably find another beer to do it. Maybe New England IPA. I know it's hard because I gotta find some really fresh beer, right? Like the goal is to find it as fresh as possible, preserve it in the fridge, and then see how it goes. Or maybe like just find normally fresh beer, and then see how I can preserve it and see how it changes. I don't know. Who knows? But let's see how we get here. So beer looks pretty nice actually. It's got a good amount of like good, not the large ones, but a good amount of chunkiness in there. Really beautiful haze. It's not completely opaque and like ugly looking. It has this nice kind of glow to it, where you can sort of you can sort of see past the edges though. So it's not like completely opaque, but pretty opaque. It doesn't look all like milky. That's the point, right? It's a nice build to it. Very bland. You get that kind of just like tired. So New England IPAs oxidize for me differently than beers with like traditional West Coast IPAs with crystal malt. They just like smell. I'm sorry. Just I mean, it's not as bad as the thing. When they get really rough, these are really gross, but it's like a somewhat of a hoppiness, but then that kind of like fresh kind of like papery cardboard. It's like, it's not, sometimes with oxidation for me, I mean, again, this is a different for everybody. I get the oxidation is like really brown, baggy, dense, dry, leafy. This is more like new cardboard, like you just open up a package kind of thing. Maybe? Cheers. So cold. Yeah. I guess it's quite cold, but there's a strong, kind of like lingering tea flavor. Not tea, aspirin flavor. The aspirin has gotten really strong here. It lingers, and that's their take on oxidation here. Fruit flavors, a little bit of like mangoey, sticky citrus thing up front, but it quickly subsides into like this dry blandness. Hey, this is not the worst. I mean, I've definitely had way worse than this at 4 months in. So, I mean, I'd argue it's definitely past its peak. A good amount past its peak, but like, you know, I would say like if the peak was here, we're going somewhere there. You know, I've had beers where it's like this or this, you know, somewhere down on the peak. Actually, the peak, no, sorry, the peak doesn't go that way. The peak sort of goes like this. Yeah, that's right. The beer fresh is like really good. Maybe a couple weeks is very good, and then it slowly teeters down, and then eventually, you know, bottoms out. I don't know if I'm off the screen, but it sort of goes like this, I want to say. It's hard to sort of draw that for you guys, but it's a progressive kind of thing. I'd argue that, especially doing an IPA, you really should only get 3 months out of it. But at least three months out of the fridge. Even 6 maybe. I've done that experiment, but non-fridge, yeah, it's drinkable actually. Again, ideally, you've created something that's somewhat shelf-stable, in the sense that even if a retailer treats it poorly, you can sit on the shelf for a minute. And yeah, it does have a little sticky mango thing. The malt is actually pretty light. For New England IPA, it doesn't have like too much that rich, sticky sweetness. So 6.8, it's not a huge beer. And as I drink it more, as it warms up, the fruitiness comes in a little bit more, and those kind of like weird, kind of like acid flavors sort of settle down a bit, and so it's a little bit more fruity sweetness up front along with the malt. Yeah, that's actually not bad. I mean, 4 months in, that's a huge surprise. I would have guessed this was warm shelf 2.5 months. Really down the peak, really showing how New England IPA can really not do well on the shelf. But 4 months in, I'll give it a lot of credit. But that's not even great credit. So, what is the spirit rating wise in the glass feel like? It's surprisingly dry, despite some of that fruitiness up front and a little bit of the malt, a little bit of this kind of like almost like cakey sweetness, a little bit like kind of like more than just like plain bread, a little bit of like desserty kind of bread thing. Think about like a pound cake or just like vanilla, a little bit of sweetness going on. I love the fruitiness. Let's go with the I'm not really happy choosing this guy, but honestly, this is even less drinkable than the flamingo that I had, right? Let's go with 75. 75 really doesn't do much for me. I mean, ideally, a really bad example of this should get. I mean, it's just really good. I really have to give things a bad rating. 75. Drinkable, it's okay. C, okay. M-43. Try it out fresh. Get some, because when I was in Michigan, it was all over the place. Like, you could find gas stations. It was everywhere. Like, outside of Bell's, Founders. I'm probably missing somebody, but there was M-43 everywhere, which is great. Good to know. Also, nice one, guys. Cheers. Let me know what you think. Later.